Hello and welcome back to Humanizer, where I'm converting the free and open source MPFB2 character creator from Blender into Godot. This time I fixed the skeleton generation in the in-game character creator, and I just added some dots so you can see that it does line up, but I'll comment that out before I upload it. And I also optimized the shape key data, so I'm using the store variable now instead of the string to JSON, and it makes a much smaller file and it's faster to load because it doesn't have to convert the arrays into vectors. And I did go ahead and upload this to the repository so you can see the changes, and now I'll show you how I made it work. So I wanted to test the changes that I made to the in-game skeleton builder, but you can't actually see the skeleton when you launch it, which is why I had the skeleton builder tool so I could hide the mesh and make sure that the skeleton was still resizing correctly. So first I tried just creating a physical skeleton from the skeleton 3D, and you can see in the editor that it does still resize with the skeleton. So there's capsules around the leg bones, if you can see the blue. So I thought it should be easy enough to just create the physical skeleton in the in-game human character and then turn on all of the debug options. But as you can see, once I launch the character creator, as I change the sliders, the mesh changes, but the skeleton outline is not. And I did make sure that I was actually setting the bone positions so that it shouldn't be static, at least. So this obviously doesn't work as it is. I also tried to disable the can sleep on the physical bones, and I found a Reddit post that said to use the physical bones start simulation, so I tried that as well in the ready function. So once it's done loading the shape key data, which does take a while, but we'll fix that. But you can see that none of that helped. The skeleton is still stationary and does not change when you change the shape keys. So I decided the best way to debug the skeleton in-game is just to use the red dots that I have for the vertex finder. So this will take a skeleton 3D as the parameter, like the build skeleton, and then I'll make a new 3D node to hold the red dots, and I'll set the node name to red dots, and then I'll add this as a child of the skeleton, And you don't want to have a bunch of duplicate nodes because it will just rename it to red dots 1, 2, 3. So I'll need to first find and remove the existing red dots. Then I'll loop over the bone IDs in the skeleton get bone count, and I'll make a new variable for the global bone transform using the get bone global pose on the bone ID. Then I'll make a new red dot from the vertex finder red dot scene, which is just a CSG mesh, and instantiate. Then I'll set the red dot transform equal to the global bone transform, and finally add the red dot as a child of the dots node. And then in the build skeleton, I'll call debug skeleton at the end. So you can just comment this entire class out or remove it. And then I'll go ahead and run the scene. So the dots don't line up with the skeleton, but at least they are now moving. So that is slightly better. So I did forget to multiply the shape key value times the weight. And I'll go ahead and delete all of these physical bones since we don't need them. And try running it again. Now you can see that the dots are still not lining up, but they are closer than they were before. And the reason for this is in the load shape key data, I did scale the shape keys, but then I added the basis because I was making them absolute for the human mesh generation, but this actually needs to be relative for that to work. So now would be a good time to regenerate the shape key data file. So I'll save it as a variable instead of a JSON this time, and it will load much faster as well. So to generate the shape key data, you'll need to go to the MPFB2 downloads plugins and get the MPFB2 Blender 4 latest nightly build. And this will create a zip file. So I've already downloaded it. And then you'll copy the MPFB folder into the Humanizer project. MPFB2 plugin folder. So now you'll have a bunch of target files for each body part, and I'll want to turn these zip files into text files. So in the target folder, open in terminal and run the gunzip -r star, which is recursive and will replace all of the GZ files with the target files, so it will remove the original one. So that works pretty fast, and as you can see, now they're .targets and I can open them and they are plain text. And once it's done copying, then I can run the clean and merge in the process shape keys. So mostly this is just to merge the left and right shape keys into a single one, since I don't want asymmetrical shape keys that just takes up more file space. So, and then I've removed the height and weight and breast macros because I haven't implemented that yet, and I don't want to add an extra 600 shape keys until I actually need them. So I'll run the clean and merge scene first. And once it's done, then I'll open up the load shape key data scene. Now I want to save this as a data file instead of as a JSON. So I'll make a save file equals file access dot open, and then name the file shapekeys.data or dat, and then set the file access to write, and then I'll store the shape key data dot basis and the shape key data dot shape keys. Since they don't really need to be together, this will shorten the overall path when I'm referencing them. And then I can close the save file. Now I don't want to convert the coordinates into arrays, since the store variable can handle the vectors, and here, so I'll just save this, the shape key coordinates, and I want this to be relative, so I do not want to add the basis. So this will affect the clothing generation and base model generation, but since I'm saving it as the dat file, it actually, I'll just leave the shape key data JSON there for now, and I'll get the rest of the files working with the new shape key data at some other time. So now I should be able to run the load shape key data in the process shape keys folder to generate the data file for the shape keys. And once it's done loading the shape keys, it'll make the dat file, and you can see that this file is 40 megabytes versus the JSON is 103, so it's more than twice as big, and that'll have to be loaded in memory as well. So that's significantly better. So now in the utils data autoload script, instead of setting the shape key data to the JSON, I'll make a variable for the human shape keys and human basis, and on ready I'll open the shape keys data with file access.read, and I'll set the human basis equal to the first variable and the human shape keys equal to the second variable, and then I'll close the file. And now in the human builder, I can replace the shape key data dot with a single variable name. Which makes it more readable. So now I should be able to run this. And since I made the shape key data relative, now you can see that the red dots are lined up properly with the skeleton as you change the parameters. So that's all working. So I think I'll go ahead and upload this to the repository. I'll comment out the debug, but that's all for now. Thank you for watching and have a great day.